Some people just can't handle when you refuse to be controlled. That's what I kept telling myself, anyway, right up until everything fell apart. But let me start from the beginning, because this whole mess started way before that wedding. Anyway, make sure to hit that like button if you enjoy hearing about relationship drama, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. My name is Maya. I'm 26 and I work in event planning. I've always been the type who lights up a room, social, confident, the kind of person who makes things happen. 2 years ago, I met Marcus at a friend's birthday party. He was 28, one of those quiet guys who stands in the corner nursing a beer and actually listens when you talk. At first, I found it refreshing. Most guys just wait for their turn to speak, but Marcus would ask follow-up questions and remember details from conversations we'd had weeks earlier. Look, I'm not gonna lie, the attention was nice. He'd text me good morning every day, ask about my work, bring me coffee when I was stressed about events. He was stable, reliable, the kind of guy parents love. My mom would always say how lucky I was to find someone so devoted, but after a while, that devotion started feeling more like suffocation. Marcus worked some corporate job that required him to wear ties every day and sit in meetings about quarterly reports. The man had never taken a real risk in his life. Everything was planned, scheduled, predictable. He'd ask permission before changing the thermostat in his own apartment. When I'd come home from work events, which were always packed with interesting, successful people, he'd be there waiting with dinner and 20 questions about my day. Every single time. Between us, it got exhausting. I'm an event planner, which means my job is literally to be social and network with people. I'm at corporate mixers, weddings, parties where I'm meeting new people constantly. But Marcus would get this weird look whenever I mentioned grabbing drinks with clients or staying late for an event. He never said anything directly, but I could feel his insecurity radiating across the room. Then Ethan walked back into my life. I was grabbing coffee between venue visits when I heard someone call my name. I turned around and there he was. Ethan, my high school boyfriend. We dated senior year, nothing too serious, but he was one of those guys who just had this natural confidence. Where Marcus asked permission, Ethan took charge. Where Marcus worried about every little thing, Ethan lived in the moment. Maya, holy crap, is that really you? He looked good, really good. The kind of good that makes you remember why you dated someone in the first place. We caught up for maybe 20 minutes. He'd moved back to town for work, was single, seemed genuinely happy to see me. When he asked for my number to catch up properly sometime, I didn't hesitate. Why would I? We were just old friends reconnecting. That night, I mentioned it to Marcus casually. You'll never guess who I ran into today. Ethan, my ex from high school. He's actually not as immature as I remembered. Marcus got that look again, the one that made me want to roll my eyes. Oh, that's nice. Don't be weird about it. We're just friends. But Marcus couldn't just let it go. Over the next few weeks, Ethan started showing up more in my life. We'd grab lunch sometimes, he'd join group hangouts, normal friend stuff. I'd post pictures from these events on social media, because why wouldn't I? They were fun memories with friends. Every time Ethan's name came up, Marcus would get tense. He'd ask casual questions that weren't really casual. So, how long were you guys together? Do you talk to him a lot? Wasn't he at that party you went to last weekend? The truth is, being around Ethan reminded me of who I used to be, the fun, spontaneous version of myself that didn't have to check in with anyone or explain every decision. With Marcus, I felt like I was constantly being monitored. He wanted to know where I was going, who I'd be with, when I'd be home. He called it caring, but it felt more like babysitting. You're reading too much into it, I told him one night when he brought up Ethan again. We're just friends. I'm not going to limit my friendships because you can't handle me having male friends. Marcus went quiet after that, but I could see him thinking, always worrying about something. God, the man couldn't just relax and trust me. Things got more complicated when my sister Hannah announced her engagement. As the maid of honor, I was basically planning a second wedding on top of my regular work. Hannah's fiancé, Tyler, was this laid-back guy who got along with everyone, including Ethan. Apparently, they'd gone to college together or something. When Hannah mentioned that Ethan was invited to the wedding, Marcus's face did this thing.
Things got more complicated when my sister Hannah announced her engagement. As the maid of honor, I was basically planning a second wedding on top of my regular work. Hannah's fiance, Tyler, was this laid-back guy who got along with everyone, including Ethan. Apparently, they'd gone to college together or something. When Hannah mentioned that Ethan was invited to the wedding, Marcus's face did this thing. Not quite a frown, but definitely not happy. "It's not a big deal," I said quickly. "He's friends with Tyler. You're not going to get weird about it, are you?" My mom shot me a look across the dinner table, but I ignored it. Marcus just smiled, that tight smile he got when he was trying to be the bigger person. "Of course not. I'm secure in our relationship." Secure, right. If he was so secure, why did he look like he'd swallowed something sour every time Ethan's name came up? The week before the wedding, I was stressed beyond belief. Vendors were calling with last-minute changes, the florist had screwed up the centerpieces, and I was basically running on coffee and adrenaline. Marcus tried to help by taking care of random errands, and even covered some expenses when the catering went over budget, but I was too overwhelmed to really appreciate it. 2 nights before the wedding, I was finally starting to feel like everything might actually come together when Marcus texted me. "Just a heads up, I heard Ethan might be bringing a date to the wedding. Didn't want you to be surprised." I stared at the message. Not, "Are you okay with that?" or "How do you feel about this?" Just a warning not to make things awkward, like I was some kind of drama queen who couldn't handle seeing an ex with someone else. I typed back, "Noted." And that was it. The morning of the wedding, I was in full maid of honor mode. Hair, makeup, photos, making sure Hannah didn't have a breakdown over the slightly wilted bouquet. I felt amazing in my bridesmaid dress. It was this deep blue that made my eyes pop, and I knew I looked good. Marcus showed up looking handsome in his suit, but he had that tearful expression he wore when he was trying not to seem bothered by something. Try to smile today, okay? Your family loves when you pretend to be social. Pretend. That word stuck with me, like being social was some kind of act I put on instead of just who I was. During the ceremony, Marcus sat with my parents while I stood up front with the other bridesmaids. Everything was beautiful. Hannah looked radiant, Tyler couldn't stop grinning, and for a moment, I forgot about all the stress and drama. I caught Marcus's eye once and smiled, and he smiled back like nothing was wrong. The reception started perfectly. Good music, great food, everyone in high spirits. I floated between tables, checking on guests, making sure everything ran smoothly. Every so often, I'd stop by Marcus's table, touch his shoulder, make sure he wasn't feeling completely abandoned. Then Ethan arrived. He walked in like he owned the place, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened just enough to look effortlessly cool. He hugged Tyler, kissed Hannah's cheek, worked the room like the natural charmer he'd always been. And yeah, I noticed. How could I not? When he spotted me across the room, his whole face lit up. "Maya, you look incredible." Short pause. We started talking, catching up on family, work, all the normal stuff. But there was this energy between us, this easy chemistry that I'd forgotten existed. With Marcus, conversations felt like interviews sometimes. With Ethan, they felt like dancing. When the DJ switched to slower music and couples started filling the dance floor, Ethan held out his hand. "Come on, for old time's sake." I glanced over at Marcus, who was still sitting with my parents, looking like he was at a funeral instead of a wedding. The man couldn't even be bothered to ask me to dance at my own sister's wedding. "It's just a dance," I said, taking Ethan's hand. But it wasn't just a dance, and we both knew it. Ethan pulled me close, his hands settling on my hips, and suddenly I remembered what it felt like to be with someone who wasn't afraid to touch me like he wanted me. Marcus was always so careful, so respectful, asking permission with his eyes before every kiss. Ethan just took what he wanted, and God help me, I wanted to be taken. The song was slow and sultry, and we moved together like we hadn't spent the last 8 years apart. His chest against my back, his breath on my neck, and his hands guiding my hips in ways that definitely crossed some lines. I could feel people watching, but I didn't care. For the first time in months, I felt alive. That's when I saw Marcus. He was standing now, his face completely unreadable, and my parents looked mortified. My dad muttered something under his breath that I couldn't hear, but I could guess. Instead of feeling guilty, I felt defiant. This was my sister's wedding. I was having fun, and if Marcus couldn't handle seeing me dance with an old friend, that was his problem. When our eyes met across the room, I actually smirked. Come on, I thought, make a scene. Show everyone how insecure you really are. Marcus stood up slowly, set his drink down, and walked toward the bar. I called after him, loud enough for people to hear. It's just a dance, relax. But he didn't look back. He just kept walking past the bar, past the buffet table, right out the door. I felt a moment of panic. Was he really leaving over dancing? But then Ethan spun me around and I forgot about everything else. The music, the attention, the way other people were looking at us with a mixture of admiration and shock. This was what passion felt like. This was what I'd been missing. My mom tried to catch my eye from across the room, but I pretended not to see her. Hannah was concerned, but she was too polite to cause a scene at her own wedding. I stayed on that dance floor until the song ended, and then the next one, and the one after that. It wasn't until I went to find Marcus later that I realized he'd actually left. His car was gone from the parking lot, and he wasn't answering his phone. I stayed until the very end of the reception, helping clean up, making sure Hannah and Tyler got off to their honeymoon suite safely. By the time I got home, it was almost 2 a.m. and I was exhausted. I expected to find Marcus waiting up, probably ready to have some big dramatic conversation about boundaries and respect. Instead, I found my key didn't work. I stood there for a full minute trying to lock over and over before I noticed the boxes by the door. My clothes, my toiletries, my books, everything I'd kept at Marcus's apartment was packed up and waiting for me. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Your things are outside. Please don't contact me again. I started calling him immediately. It went straight to voicemail. I texted back. Are you serious right now? You're breaking up with me over dancing? No response. I spent the next hours sitting on his doorstep, calling and texting, getting more pissed off by the minute. This was insane. It was dancing at a wedding with someone I used to date in high school. If he couldn't handle that, then maybe we weren't as compatible as I thought. But deep down, underneath the anger, something cold was settling in my stomach. Marcus didn't make empty threats. He didn't play games or try to manipulate me with drama. When he said something, he meant it. The next morning, I woke up in my old childhood bedroom at my parents' house, hungover and confused. I had 30 missed calls and a flood of texts, but none of them were from Marcus. My mom had left me a note, "We need to talk when you're ready." My sister Hannah had texted, "I'm sorry about last night. Are you okay?" Even some of my cousins had reached out, but their messages were careful, diplomatic. Nobody wanted to take sides, but I could read between the lines. The messages from Marcus's friends were different. What the hell happened last night? Marcus won't talk to anyone. Dude, he's really messed up. But Marcus himself, nothing. Radio silence. I tried calling him from different numbers. I drove by his work. I even showed up at his apartment again, but he wouldn't answer the door. Marcus, please, can we just talk? You're making this bigger than it is. Through the door, his voice was calm, but final. There's nothing to talk about. We're done. Are you seriously ignoring me like a child? It was one stupid dance. Everyone was drunk. You're acting like I cheated on you or something. Silence. Fine, I called through the door. If you want to throw away 2 years over nothing, that's on you. Still nothing. And before I continue, if you're invested in the story, please hit that like button and subscribe. Comments really help a small creator like me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what happened here. Should Marcus have handled this differently? Was I in the wrong? Let me know below. I posted on social media that night. Nothing specific, just something about how some people can't handle strong women who refuse to be controlled.
The likes and supportive comments made me feel better, like I wasn't crazy for thinking Marcus was overreacting. But then mutual friends started reaching out privately. What really happened? Marcus is not talking, but he seems really hurt. Are you guys gonna work this out? So I told them the truth. I danced with my ex at my sister's wedding, and Marcus couldn't handle it. That's literally all that happened. Most people seem to understand. Dancing wasn't cheating. Marcus was being dramatic. But a few of them got quiet after that, like they were trying to figure out how to respond. 2 weeks passed. Marcus still wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't see me, wouldn't even acknowledge my existence. I started to realize this wasn't just a fight. He was actually done. But that didn't make sense. People don't end relationships over dancing. There had to be something else, some bigger issue he wasn't telling me about. I tried reaching out to his sister, his friends, anyone who might be able to explain what was really going on in his head. Most of them were polite but unhelpful. He just needs time, they'd say. Or maybe you should give him some space. Space. I'd given him 2 weeks of space. How much more did he need? That's when I found out about Ethan. One of my friends mentioned casually that she'd seen him out with some girl from his gym. They looked pretty cozy, apparently. When I confronted him about it, he was weirdly evasive. "We're just hanging out," he said. "I mean, you're with Marcus, right?" "Actually, Marcus and I are taking a break." "Oh." Ethan looked uncomfortable. "I didn't know that. So what does that mean for us?" "Us?" He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Maya, we're friends. We had fun at the wedding, but I'm not looking for anything serious right now." Friends? After the way we danced, after the connection I'd felt, after I had risked my relationship for him, we were just friends? I tried calling Marcus that night. For the first time in weeks, he actually answered. "What do you want, Maya?" His voice was different, colder, like he was talking to a stranger. "I want to fix this. I want to talk about what happened and figure out how to move forward." "There's nothing to fix. You made your choice." "My choice, Marcus? I danced with someone, that's all. I didn't cheat on you. I didn't lie to you. I didn't do anything wrong. You disrespected me in front of your entire family. You told me to relax when I was clearly uncomfortable. You chose him over me in public at your sister's wedding. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. And when you had the chance to stop, to consider my feelings, to show me even basic respect, you smirked at me instead." The smirk. I'd forgotten about that, but now it came rushing back, the way I'd looked at him across the dance floor, daring him to make a scene. I was just having fun. At my expense? "Marcus, please, we can work through this. I'll set boundaries with Ethan. I won't see him anymore if that's what you need." "I don't need anything from you anymore." "You don't mean that." "I do. I spent 2 years trying to be enough for you, trying to earn your respect, your loyalty, your basic consideration, and you threw it all away for a dance with someone who doesn't even want you." That hit like a slap. "How do you know about Ethan?" "Because I have eyes, Maya. Because I watch you light up around him in ways you never did with me. Because you chose him over me the second you had the chance." I wanted to argue, but the words stuck in my throat. He wasn't wrong about Ethan. I had felt more alive in those few minutes on the dance floor than I had in months with Marcus. "So that's it? You're just giving up on us?" "I'm not giving up. I'm choosing myself for once." The line went dead. 3 months passed. 3 months of me trying to figure out how everything had gone so wrong so fast. My family was supportive but distant. They loved Marcus, and while they didn't say it directly, I could tell they thought I'd messed up. Hannah barely talked to me, still mad that I'd caused drama at her wedding. The wedding video made everything worse. When it got posted online,
You could see everything from different angles. The way Ethan and I moved together, how intimate it looked, the expression on Marcus's face when he realized what was happening, my parents in the background looking mortified. The moment I called out to Marcus to relax, like he was being ridiculous for having feelings. Watching it back, I could see why people were uncomfortable. It did look bad, but it was still just dancing. Some of my cousins started making jokes about pulling a Maya whenever someone did something questionable at family events. It was supposed to be funny, but it stung every time. I dated other people, but nothing felt right. Every guy I met seemed either too much like Marcus, careful, respectful, asking permission for everything, or too much like Ethan, charming, but ultimately unavailable. I found myself comparing everyone to Marcus, remembering little things about him that I'd taken for granted. The way he'd bring me coffee without being asked, how he'd listen to me complain about work drama without trying to fix everything, the way he'd hold me when I was stressed, not trying to get anything from me, just being there. I'd thrown all of that away for what? A few minutes of feeling desired by someone who saw me as nothing more than a fun distraction? 6 months after the wedding, I saw them together. I was at a restaurant with some coworkers when I spotted Marcus across the room. He was laughing at something, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in years. Then I saw her, a woman about my age, pretty in a natural way, touching his arm while she talked. The way she looked at him, like he was actually interesting, like she enjoyed his company. Marcus noticed me staring and nodded politely, but he didn't come over. He didn't look angry or hurt anymore. He looked indifferent, like I was just another person in the restaurant, no more significant than the waitress or the couple at the next table. With a hint of fear, I wanted to go over there to interrupt their dinner, to demand answers or closure or something. But I just sat there watching them, realizing that Marcus had moved on completely, while I was still stuck in the wreckage of what we'd had. That night, I got drunk and sent him a long message about how sorry I was, how I'd learned from my mistakes, how we'd been good together and maybe we could try again. I poured my heart out, admitting things I'd never been able to say before. He didn't even open it. The message showed as delivered, but never read, like I wasn't worth 30 seconds of his time. That's when it really hit me. I'd lost him. Not temporarily, not until he cooled off, but permanently. The man who used to hang on my every word couldn't even be bothered to read my apology. My event planning business started suffering too. Word travels fast in our industry, and the wedding video had made its rounds. Several clients canceled their contracts, not wanting someone with questionable judgment handling their special events. The ones who stayed made pointed comments about professionalism and appropriate behavior. I had to move back in with my parents, which was humiliating at 26. Every family dinner was awkward, with relatives either avoiding the topic entirely or making passive-aggressive comments about commitment and respect. A year after the wedding, I was still living at home, my business barely surviving, my family relationship strained. I'd burned through most of my friendships trying to get people to take sides in a fight that was already over. That's when I ran into Marcus again. I was picking up groceries when I saw him in the produce section with the same woman from the restaurant. She was laughing at something he'd said, completely comfortable and happy. Marcus looked good, really good, confident in a way he'd never been with me. When he saw me, he smiled politely. "Hi, Maya." "Hi." I looked at the woman beside him, waiting for an introduction that never came. "How are you?" he asked, but it was the kind of question you ask acquaintances, not ex-girlfriends you'd loved for 2 years. "I'm good, really good." It was a lie, but I wasn't about to admit that in front of his new girlfriend. "That's great. Well, we should get going." And that was it. No anger, no drama,
No unfinished business, just polite small talk between two people who used to know each other. As I watched them walk away, her hand tucked into his arm, I realized something that made my chest ache. Marcus looked happy, genuinely, completely happy in a way he'd never looked with me. And she looked at him like he was exactly what she wanted, not a consolation prize or a safe option. I'd spent 2 years with a man who would have done anything for me, who loved me exactly as I was, who wanted nothing more than to build a life together. And I'd thrown it all away because I was bored, because I wanted excitement and passion and drama more than I wanted love and stability and respect. The truth is, Marcus wasn't weak or needy or suffocating. He was just a good man who deserved better than someone who took his love for granted. Someone who would choose a moment of excitement over years of devotion. Someone like me. Now I'm 27, living with my parents, watching my sister avoid me at family events, seeing my former clients post about their successful weddings planned by other people. My social media is full of pictures of Marcus and his new girlfriend traveling together, looking genuinely happy. And yeah, I know I did this to myself. I know I made choices that led me here. But knowing that doesn't make it hurt any less. It doesn't bring back the man who used to love me unconditionally, or the relationship I was too stupid to appreciate when I had it. Sometimes I think about that night at the wedding, about the moment when Marcus looked at me across the dance floor and I smirked back at him. If I could go back, would I do it differently? Would I stop dancing, go to him, choose him over the excitement of being wanted by someone else? I want to say yes, but the truth is, I don't know. Because in that moment, I felt more alive than I had in months. And maybe that says everything about who I really am and why I'm sitting here alone while Marcus builds a new life with someone who actually appreciates what he has to offer. The worst part is, I still don't think what I did was that bad. It was dancing. It was a moment of fun at a wedding. But I'm starting to understand that it wasn't really about the dancing at all. It was about respect and loyalty and choosing your partner even when something more exciting comes along. Marcus chose me every day for 2 years, and when it mattered most, I chose someone else. Maybe that's why I'm here and he's there. Maybe that's exactly what we both deserve.